We've just had an absolutely bonkers weekend of Championship action. Let's talk about it all. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel and to another episode of the Championship Roundup. This weekend just gone by was quite possibly the most unpredictable set of results that we've had so far this season. Loads of drama and action to talk over. As always, I want to get your guys' thoughts on everything that went on this weekend in the comments down below. Before we jump into any of the action, let's take a look at the updated standings in the Prediction League. And fair play to everyone who got above like 5 or so points this weekend just because the results were so unpredictable. It is still Kyle Barrett who is leading the way at the top of the Prediction League with 84 points. I'm currently just sort of like consolidating my place in the top 3 at the moment, hoping to eventually hit that number 1 spot, but I'm in a decent position at the moment in 3rd place. In League 1 we have a new leader in Swalker21 who picked up 7 points this game week, which is fairly decent going, to be honest with you, sitting top on 64 points at the moment. And then these are the current standings in League 2. Not a lot separating this league at the moment, 59 to 57 at the moment. 57 is the amount of points you'll need to get yourself onto League 2 at the moment. But those are all the updated Prediction League standings. Now without any further ado, let's jump into talking about these games. And so we'll start out with Saturday's early kickoff, and that saw Sheffield United getting back to winning ways as they beat Hull by 3 goals to 1 and had it fairly easy in this one. A couple of mistakes that Hull made in this one we'll touch on, but really impressed with Sheffield United and really impressed by Morgan Gibbs-White. At this level, he is a serious player, and the delivery for the sharp goal was absolutely pin perfect, and to be honest he could have had a couple of goals for himself as well. He had a couple of speculative efforts which were well saved from sort of outside the box and things like that. Sheffield United obviously had that chance to go in 2-0 at half time and of all people to miss a penalty, and Billy Sharp couldn't quite convert this time around. But same thing in the second half really, and this is where Hull really started to make a few of their mistakes. Defending from set pieces has been a bit of an issue for Hull so far this season. I had a bit of a deeper dive into the numbers, and so far this season they've conceded from 6 set pieces. That's more than any other Championship side so far this season, and it seems to be a little bit of an Achilles heel for them at the moment. Obviously, from Sheffield United's point of view, we all know the quality that someone like a Conor Hourihane has from delivering those balls. You know, we saw it with Swansea last season, and especially when you've got a target like John Egan to be meeting in the middle. But for the first goal that Egan scored especially, I mean, he was completely unmarked. He gets a little bit of a run, I think, on Malik Wilkes, who ends up marking him, and yeah, it's really poor defending. The same could be said for the second one as well, and at 3-0 Sheff United, you know, it's the game wrapped up there. The positive to take from Hull's perspective, I suppose, is that they did get that goal, the first one they scored since the opening day of the season, through Keane Lewis-Potter. But yeah, a couple worries here, and Hull do drop into the bottom 3 now after that result. Next up then to the only goalless draw we had of the weekend, that saw Barnsley drawing 0-0 with Blackburn. Barnsley's last performance against Stoke was a real sort of like backs against the wall sort of performance. Collins was brilliant in net. This one, they had a little bit more about them in terms of going forward. A lot of their chances seem to be coming from set pieces and corners being swung in and things like that, but defensively Blackburn seemed fairly assured for this one. Blackburn didn't really offer all too much in terms of an attacking sense, which has been a bit of a trend for their away matches so far this season, but they always seem to get maybe just 1 or 2 moments of quality which ends up being enough for them. And Brereton very nearly came up with that moment. He was sent through for a 1-on-1 but just couldn't seem to really sort his feet out. Collins was quite quick to come out of his goal, and he just couldn't convert that one in the end. So yeah, fine margins in this one. Barnsley potentially edged it with the amount of chances they created and could have got this one potentially with a goal from a set piece or something like that, but yeah, not the most quality on show in the final third in this game. Next then we have Bournemouth, who are on an absolute roll in the Championship at the moment. 1-0 against Cardiff, and this result has seen them go to the top of the Championship. Great stuff here and a great start for Scott Parker. I think that we sort of knew what to expect coming into this game. You know, Cardiff were always going to let Bournemouth have the ball, and they were just going to look to sort of frustrate them for as long as possible and then look to get a goal, either sort of on the counter-attack or with one of those long balls coming into the box. But Bournemouth controlled this game fairly well from minute 1, and Cardiff didn't really lay a glove on Bournemouth throughout the afternoon for this one. Philip Billing obviously opened the scoring in the second half. Lovely finish from outside the box. The keeper's just sort of flat-footed and doesn't even bother trying to get down to it. But I mean, the only real criticism that I suppose we can have of Bournemouth here is potentially they could have been maybe a little bit more clinical in the final third with a few of their chances. They hadn't killed this one off a bit earlier, but no, really professional performance there. You know, Cardiff, it's not an easy place to go to with the sort of way they set up, but Bournemouth got themselves through this one. And with the way that sort of, you know, Fulham and West Brom have been faltering recently, Bournemouth are looking to take advantage of that. and they're looking quite good at the moment, I have to say. Next up then we head to Derby County, and we've got a lot to unpack with this at the moment. Obviously the news about them going into administration came out after we'd recorded Friday's prediction video, and yeah, a lot has taken place at the club since then, and we'll talk about the football in just a second. But in terms of the situation off the pitch at the moment, I mean, you can't help but feel for Derby fans at this point in time, really. The statement that they put out after all this was announced, I think got a lot of people quite annoyed, actually. The amount of sort of deflection in that statement, the lack of any sort of accountability for the mistakes that they've made at the club and things like that. Yeah, it really wasn't a good read there, but credit to sort of the players at the club and Rooney as well. I think that he's come across quite well, actually, in the last couple of days with how everything has sort of unfolded with them. So at the moment it's looking like that 9-point deduction like we did mention last time, and then a further 12 points for going into administration, so a total of 21 points being taken away from Derby here, obviously. I mean, with the way they're playing at the moment, there's the argument that they could have potentially coped with that minus 9 points, but you know, 21's an absolute sinker, isn't it? But in terms of the football on the pitch, you know, a fair play to the players in this one, because they didn't let that distract them by any means. Up against the Stoke side, who a lot of people are now fancying for the top 6 with the way they've started this season, but Derby were absolutely brilliant to a man in this one. Max Bird with the opener with an absolute thunderbolt of a strike. They then make it 2-0 with Curtis Davis getting on the score sheet, you know, bit of a modern legend in the last couple of years for Derby. And to be honest with you, they should have probably had more than that, you know. How Ravel Morrison missed that chance when he went around the keeper to make it 3, I don't know. Of all people to pop up with that goal back for Stoke, of course it'd be Tom Ince. He had a chance to make it 2-2 as well, but Derby were more than deserving of the 3 points in this one, and yeah, it's just going to be a battle for them from here on out, because we don't know what's going to happen, you know. In January there, you know, very well could be an absolute fire sale, and you know, all the players who played in this game might not be there at the end of the season, but for the time being, you know, all the fans can do is sort of support the club and what's going on the pitch, and it was a great performance at the weekend. Next up then we go to Craven Cottage, where we had Reading beating Fulham by 2-1. Now, I didn't give Reading much of a chance coming into this one. It's, you know, on paper the leakiest defence in the league, coming up against one of the most prolific attacks in the Championship so far this season. But I mean, this is why we just love the league, for ridiculous results like this. But Reading were fully deserving of this in the end, you know. Ovi Ajaria came up with 2 real moments of quality in this game, and I mean, technically speaking, Ajaria is probably one of the most like naturally gifted players in the Championship. We just want to see this sort of thing on a more consistent basis, because on his day he's an absolute world beater. The first goal was absolutely brilliant, just whips it around into that post, but for me, I think I prefer the second goal, actually. It's a brilliant little give and go between him and Halilovic, great little chip over, and then the first touch spin and then finish on top of it. Just great stuff there. From Fulham's perspective, there wasn't necessarily sort of like a lack of chances being created in this one. You can see to the side of me how many shots they eventually had in this game, but a real lack of sort of clinical ability. Obviously Muniz did get that goal back for them in the 86th minute, and shout out to Luke Southwood in the Reading goal, because he made one terrific save at the end, which would have rescued the point for Fulham. But yeah, shout out to him, who's obviously coming after that Raphael injury, and a massive win there for Reading, who now make it 2 wins on the bounce. For Fulham, yeah, maybe there are a few more problems there than we originally thought at the start of the season, when we thought it might be plain sailing for them this season. And after that, we finally had Nottingham Forest claiming their first win of the season, as they saw off Huddersfield Town by 2-0. Obviously the first game without Chris Hughton. As of recording, it's looking more than likely that Steve Cooper is going to be their next manager. He's by far and away the favourite as of recording, but yeah, it'd be interesting to know from some Forest fans down below what you would make of that potential appointment. In terms of the game though, I mean, yeah, it does seem like this one's been a long time coming. Lewis Grabban with the opening goal, brilliant run from Brennan Johnson, similar to that sort of run he made on the opening day of the season against Coventry. You just need to get him into those sort of positions more often, you know, get him into those wide areas, isolated up against a fullback, and he can be absolutely fantastic. But yeah, great ball in, great header by Grabban to make it 1. And then the second goal, which I think in the end has gone down as an own goal for Nichols, hasn't it? But Joe Lolly very much crafting this one out against his former side, and Huddersfield just didn't seem to be at the races for this one and caught Nottingham Forest at a bad time. But yeah, finally Forest are off the mark for this season, and they've got something to smile about at last. After that, we then had Luton 3, Swansea 3. Of course, the only game of the weekend that I predicted to be a goalless draw ends up being a 6-goal thriller, but what a game it was in the end. I think that Luton have now drawn their last 4 Championship matches, but I mean, they should have been out of sight in the first half in this one, which they were. They put 3 goals past Swansea in what was a really shoddy first half performance from the away side, I think it's fair to say. Defensively, they looked absolutely all over the place going forward. before, they didn't have anything going for them despite all the possession that they have of the ball. And Luton looked like they were in cruise control. Even going into the second half, Harry Cornick had a chance to make it 4 as he hit the post, but something just seemed to switch with Swansea. The changes that Luton made in the second half obviously didn't have the desired effect. One of the talking points before Swansea's comeback was that bizarre coming together with Henry Lansbury and Ryan Manning. I think, both of them are a little bit silly from either side, really. Manning for being a bit petulant and kicking away that free kick, and then Lansbury for still following through when it was obvious that he could have stopped. But both players were booked for that, and then after, what a comeback this was from Swansea. The first goal from Jamie Patterson, Sluga doesn't exactly cover himself in glory for that one. Second goal by Oliver Nutcham, not sure how to pronounce that name, let me know down below, Swansea fans, but he looks like a serious player. Great goal right into the top bins. And then Joel Perreault in the 92nd minute with a great finish, can sort of take it on either foot, Carney, but yeah, right into the bottom corner past Sluga from the edge of the box. And it was a brilliant second half performance from Swansea. So while we have to be sort of like critical of all the mistakes they made in the first half, we got to give them the plaudits for the second half, because yeah, that was some turnaround. Next up then to Middlesbrough up against Blackpool, and it was Blackpool claiming their first away win of the season as they saw off Borough by 2-1, and it was pretty much the perfect start for the home side as well. They took the lead after 8 minutes through Tavernier, a goal which sort of comes from a set piece routine. Bit of an issue maybe for Blackpool defending those sort of situations so far this season. They've conceded from 5 set piece situations this far into this season, which is the second most in the Championship. But to be fair to Blackpool, I mean, they've had a couple performances like this on the road now where they've sort of gone behind early on and then had that second half comeback, thinking back to that game they had against Bournemouth. But I mean, the equaliser is a great finish, to be fair. It's both the centre halves that are linking up for this one, and for a centre half, it's a great finish in the end. Nice little touch up and then finish into the back of the net. And then from then, obviously, Blackpool score from a set piece of their own. In the end, it's Grant Hall turning it into the back of his own net. Martin Pereault has a chance to equalise for Borough as his shot from outside the box comes off the bar. But in terms of Middlesbrough, is Neil Warnock under a little bit of pressure now? I think he might be. I think that with the tools that he has available to him and the sort of transfer window that Middlesbrough have just had, with the outlay of money that they've spent on some of these incomings especially, I know we're still early doors into this season, but it's not exactly been a sparkling start for Middlesbrough so far, and I can't help but feel like if this current trend of form continues over the next sort of like 5-6 matches or something like that, and they're not looking like they will be sort of in that contention of the top 6, then yeah, something may happen there with Neil Warnock, because I do feel like there is a few frustrations there at the moment, albeit we are obviously still very early on into the season. But nah, not taking anything away from Blackpool there. Very impressive win on the road. Next up then to the Den, and perhaps to one of the more predictable results of the weekend. We had Millwall drawing 1-1 with Coventry. I think that's now 3 consecutive draws for Millwall in the Championship. There has been a lot of draws lately in the league, hasn't there, from quite a few clubs. But now, decent game of football this one in the end. It's Coventry who take the lead, and another goal for this season for Victor Gyökeres. He is just in the absolute form of his life at the moment, isn't he? Yeah, he's been absolutely brilliant for Coventry lately. Millwall, though, managed to come back into this one. It's Jed Wallace who does well to create it. Nice little bit of movement from Matt Smith, and then George Saville with the finish to make it 1-1. One of the more contentious decisions from this game was the fact that Millwall did have the ball in the back of the net. It was Tom Bradshaw with the finish after the ball had been swung in, but the linesman had his flag up for offside. Now, I believe it was Matt Smith who was adjudged to have been in that offside position and then sort of like interfering with play, I guess. But I mean, it's very hard to tell from looking at like the screenshot of when the ball is kicked if he was or not. It's one of those real sort of marginal decisions. So yeah, from that aspect, Millwall might feel a little bit hard done by or anything like that. But good game of football in the end to end. Both teams had chances, and probably either team could have gone on to win this one. Next up then to Peterborough 3, Birmingham 0. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see this one coming, but easily Peterborough's best performance of the season so far. And this was the sort of thing that we were probably expecting to see a little bit more of with them coming up to the Championship this season. So they'll be hoping that this will be a sign of things to come. But credit to them, they switched up their system a little bit for this one, went for that forward 3, and I thought they all worked off each other brilliantly. Sariki Dembele especially, I thought he was Peterborough's best player when they came to Deepdale earlier on in this season, and he was causing Birmingham constant problems throughout the afternoon for this one. He had a hand in setting up each of the goals. It was the perfect start for Peterborough. They took the lead in the first minute with that Harley Dean own goal. It was Dembele who had a hand in setting up that one. He then had had a hand in creating the penalty in the end, a little bit clumsy from Ryan Woods, and then it's Clark Harris who sticks that one away, and then George Grant with the third one in the second half. Birmingham's afternoon pretty much summed up with that Gardner red card, to be honest with you. Really shoddy stuff in here from Birmingham, and particularly in that first half with some of the defending on show. You know, I think that everyone sort of forgave them for that loss they had against Fulham, because let's be real, Fulham will probably do that to quite a few sides this season, but to lose in the manner of which they did in this one against Peterborough is a little bit harder to take. They've got Michael Preston up next, so I'm very interested to see if they bounce back in that one or not. But yeah, credit to Peterborough, I thought they looked really good in this one. After that, we then go to Deepdale, where we have Preston drawing 1-1 with West Brom. Both sides now drawing their last 3 championship matches. It was an interesting game in this one. Preston certainly had to adapt our game plan to sort of suit West Brom in this one. You know, with West Brom under Ishmael so far this season, you very know what you're going to get, you know, coming up against you. And there is starting to be a bit of a blueprint to sort of how to counteract West Brom, and it's sort of on them now if they can sort of figure out a bit of a plan B, because I think that that was something that was potentially lacking from this game. But it was North End who took the lead in this one. Whiteman with the finish took a bit of a big deflection to take it past Sam Johnston. West Brom get back into it just before half time. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't happy at all with this equaliser. Darlong Furlong manages to steal God knows how many yards to get into the thrown position where it would be sort of an attacking thrown, you know, coming into the box. He took it nowhere near where the thrown eventually went out from. Then Phillips obviously levels things up going into half time, and then in the second half there wasn't really all too much impetus from West Brom to really go on and win this game. I was surprised when Diane Garner came off. I thought he looked fairly threatening for them in the first half, but there was definitely that, you know, thought to counteract West Brom with the way that Frankie sort of settles up in this one. You know, you can create chances against them if you literally just continue to lob balls over the top because of how high they actually go ahead and play. Ledson had a decent chance for us, but probably the best chance to go on and win this one did fall to former Preston player Jordan Hugill, although he hit it straight at Daniel Everson. So in the end, I thought a point was probably fair. Neither team really did enough to go on and win this one. And then for the last game of the weekend to talk over, we had Bristol City beating QPR 2-1 away from home. Bristol City just love a win on the road, don't they? But I mean, this was quite the interesting game really, because QPR set up in quite an aggressive fashion really. They were playing with 2 number 10s, 2 strikers, and then Johansson in behind that. So very attacking lineup from the offset, and you can see by the statistics to the side of me just how many chances QPR actually created in this one. That certainly wasn't their problem in this game, was it? Despite them having a lot of the ball for the first half though, it was Bristol City who went in leading 1-0. It was Chris Martin with the goal, Andy Vyman setting up that one. Into the second half then, and it was just literally like wave after wave seemingly of QPR attacks. Sam McCallum gets that first goal back, and then after that they really start to apply the pressure. But one player we have to give a mention to here is Bristol City goalkeeper Daniel Bentley. Last weekend in the Championship we had quite a few actually top goalkeeping performances, but goalkeeper performance of the week definitely goes to Daniel Bentley, because he was absolutely flawless. QPR were throwing absolutely everything at him, but it just wasn't happening for them in this game at all, was it? I do think that on another day, with the amount of chances they created in this one, they probably go on to win this one. You know, Bristol City at times in that second half were, you know, seemingly quite content with holding on for the point, but when that counter-attacking opportunity comes, it's another great ball in by Andy Vyman, slips in Naki Wells with the outside of his foot, and against his former club he comes up with a winner in the 93rd minute. Like I say, Bristol City just love a win away from home, don't they? Frustrating here for QPR, and although it was a frustrating defeat where, you know, quite a few chances were squandered, they are still getting into those positions, they are still creating that volume of chances, and on another day it probably would have clicked for them. But what an away win that is for Bristol City there. There we have it though guys, that will wrap it up for today's video. In terms of my results of the weekend, quite a few I could give this one to, but I think that Peterborough beating Birmingham by 3-0 could turn out to be an absolutely massive result in their season. In terms of the goal of the weekend, quite a few contenders for this one. Do you know which one I thought was actually really good and maybe quite underrated from this game week? I thought that Ovie Ejaria's second goal against Fulham, the one where he takes the touch and then swivels on it and then finishes, I thought that one was a really nice goal this weekend. But make sure to get all your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Apart from that, thanks for watching. Make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content, and I'll see you all in the next one.